In this video, I will go over all the insert versions that I've made for QE over time, including the final iteration. The original intention was to give you guys this portion of the insert in two separate pieces, which you would assemble together, but now I've opted just to glue them together. The reason for that is because between the time I developed the first iteration and this final one, I found better ways to reliably join the two parts together. One of the differences you'll see is the stem-like divider in the middle of the insert. For the first iteration, it's more narrow than the later iterations. You'll also see that the stem doesn't even exist in the upper half of this older insert here. An issue that I ran into was that these have very little material support at the base, so there was a time when I've accidentally knocked into this and I snapped a piece right off. In response to that, the final iteration thickens up the stem to counter that. Another thing about the first iteration is the resolution of the text. This was the first time I've tried to do some form of letter etching. While the resolution isn't great, the depth of the letters are quite deep. And all that means is that some bits and pieces were easily broken off, such as the openings found with certain letters like B or P. For the updated version, I'm using larger font with lower depth. This means the text is easier to read, there are no parts breaking off, and there is no resolution issues we run into with the printer. What's really cool about this is that if you have a fine tip marker, you can fill in these grooves to make the letters stand out even more. Apologies for jumping around on topics, but what I was trying to accomplish with this game was finding a way to store the base game as well as the expansion. I found inspiration off existing Etsy products, but while their product was focused on using as little material to store the game, I wanted to make something that felt like a complete package, where labeling and defined shapes made it intuitive to use, and it wouldn't require you to memorize where everything goes. So what we're looking at right now is the bottom half of the insert. Here is where all the main tiles go. At the top left is for the first player marker as well as the industry tokens. These were all about the same size, so I grouped them together and stacked them on top of each other like so. The company tiles are given two areas to be stored, so you can split that up evenly and put those in like so. In the first iteration of this, the text reads commodity tiles on all three spaces. But in the final iteration, I decided to change each space to say the actual commodity type, because I felt it would freshen things up. It doesn't change the functionality of the insert anyway. Now for the upper tray, this went through several iterations. Just gonna move this over to the side. This is the very first iteration I came up with. It's pretty basic in shape. It's like a tray with two missing walls. The key feature was these two curved notches, which were important in making this easier to pick up. If I put this in the box, notice that without these two notches, there's no room to get my finger around this. The etched lettering was the same style as the lower tray that we saw at the beginning of the video. It uses the same font size and depth, meaning it has the same resolution issues and broken pieces. It also uses the same zigzag pattern for a dovetail style joint, but sadly because of the thinness of the material, there's not enough surface friction to keep them held together. So in the end, I just had to glue them together. But I wanted to explore different ways to join the pieces without the use of glue, so I went ahead and came up with version 2. The idea behind this was to thicken up the two walls on the left and the right hand sides to allow me to make internal male-female connections, which you can't see, so that this would have all the surface area needed for the adhesive to bind the two parts together. The notch is only on one side as opposed to both, because the notched areas are where the walls are at its thinnest. So the workaround with thickening up one wall meant I had to shrink the width on the other wall, losing the notch in the process. As for the font, I've tried something different. It's more of a square frame, and is taller in proportion, which I like, But when working at a smaller font size, I'm losing the sharpness due to printer limitation, resulting in a messier appearance. So about the one-sided notched feature, the idea is that I would lift it by one end, get the rest of my hand underneath to take it all out. Now something about it doesn't make sense to me. Because the notch doesn't have the same flared angle for my finger to grip onto it, like you'll see in my other games like Hidden Leaders with the card tray, or the tile bin in Fit to Print. Now while the nature of FDM printing creates these grooved surfaces for some level of grip, I wanted something more than that. For this prototype, I was experimenting with welding on filament using a soldering iron. This was something I was exploring to get around the use of glue. Didn't have much luck so far, and I ended up gluing these two pieces together in the end. Not wanting to throw this out, because if appearance doesn't matter too much to you, this could still be used in the game. Anyway, that's version 2. Here's what I'm going to call the final version of this upper tray. So I went back to the 2 notches design. However, to address the thin walls issue, I relocated the split a quarter of the way up from the edge rather than halfway. Here I was able to use the thicker wall to create the male-female connection. I also made a jagged connection that looks like what you'd see on a road bridge. The whole purpose of this was to create more surface area for the glue to bond to, and to cover the visibility of it. While I haven't done any stress tests, I don't think the point of the product is to withstand a strong impact anyway. Treat your board games with care. The font I'm using is the standard I'm using with all my inserts now with the rounded text. Found this font does well with the printer's nozzle, so I'm sticking with it. The height of the tray is also increased to accommodate replacement markers. In my first version, I did not address what one would have had to do if replacement markers were needed. I already own a bulk bag of replacement markers that I bought off AliExpress, and the style of the markers cap I noticed were a bit taller. So that's why I've increased the tray height to be able to accommodate that. Most of the available markers I found were of this style, so I'm going off the assumption that this is some sort of universal size. Let's start wrapping this up. Here's how this comes together. Player boards always go in first. The next things don't need to be done in order, but I do like doing the commodity tiles next. The labels on the wall can be used as a reminder where they go. Next are the markers, which, if you still have the base game markers, have to be arranged in this forwards and backwards pattern. And the bid tiles go in at the end just like that. And of course the rulebooks for the base and the expansion go on top, and then cover that up with the lid. And that's it. This makes the whole experience of the game much more enjoyable for me. If you would like to stay up to date on future inserts I make, please consider following me on YouTube or Instagram, and if you wish to purchase a copy of this insert, I'll leave a link in the description below. If there's an insert for a game you're looking for that has not been made, feel free to leave names in the comments below. I am open to commissions depending on the level of demand. Thanks again for watching, and look forward to the next one.